Don't make me laugh, Masturbate. Sorry. Text makes me cough, and then my COPD gets worse. All right, let's lock that. Master Analysis. Hey, what's up, everybody? So, Thursday analysis stream. Mikhail Tal. He channeled Mikhail Tal. Unbelievable. My dad told me the 3 things you can't avoid in life: death, taxes, and bad luck. No. I just added the bad luck. Astrobate. If you're a subscriber, you can submit a game. We've got Astrobate, Sun Prism, Nafirav, Mad NPC, and we might have another one. Let's see. Don't be mad. Get even. Alright, let's see here. Redusa. You say, yeah, Redusa is like chat banned or something. Why don't I get notifications about Redusa? Alright. There he is. See? He's not there. He's not on the list. So check it out. This is why I hate my Leech-ass messages. If I go to the go to the icon, notifications, he's not there. But if I go to my inbox, it is there. Can someone explain that to me? There's inbox and then there's notifications. And they're like the same thing, but they're not. That needs to be cleaned up. You know, if there's one thing that this website does, if Leechess does one thing, they need to unify and figure out this chat notification thing, because it's really weird that one works and the other one, it shows up there but not on the other one. You know, that's really weird. Okay. Hi, can I get this game analyzation for today? Thanks. Analyzation. Watch streak reached. Mikhail Tal on the 7th stream streak. All right. Mikhail Tal, what time is it where you are? When someone named Mikhail Tal, we always think you're in Latvian time. Whatever happened to Troll on a Roll? Dude, what if Troll on a Roll got, like, taken away by the Russian, inducted into the Russian army? Alright, let's see. Probably. Oh, what am I doing? That's not good. That's not good. That's not what I wanted. See, it doesn't show up. I have to go to my account and click inbox, then it shows up. Oh, you did send me okay, you sent me and I have to click on that. Okay. So get PGN. Okay, now I have to get the PGN. Now I get the PGN. Now I put it in there. It's a very long one. Copy. Is it just me that I'm old, or is it normal to be tired all the time? I don't sleep enough. Alright, I need sleep. I need to sleep, Doctor. Dr. Sleep. Stephen King book. Where's my freaking thing? My studies, analysis, add, new chapter, paste. Alright, that's 5 games. We got 5 games so far. You have to be a subscriber, so please subscribe. Guess what, guys? We have no subs this week. Get bits. Join the party with bits. First time, there's a first time bit discount if you buy bits for the first time. Gift to subscription. Do we get discount for gift subscriptions too? Gift 5 subs, you save 5 euros. What's up, guys? You have to be a subscriber to do the analysis stream. Alright. No, first game is Astrobate versus Fibonacci. Fibonacci is a mathematician. Alright. Fibonacci something. So... Alright. Astrobate is up first. I need some oxygen. Hold on. We're gonna get the oxygen. Okay, oxygen enabled. So let's see. Astrobate, you're up first. All right, we've got knight f3. You've been playing this for a while now. Hyper modern first move. Knight f3, stopping e5. Black plays d5, the most principled central move. And now c4, counterattacking the center. Black has d4, e6, c6, and d takes c. Holy shit, Black played knight f6. So we just saw this in another game. Clip that and put it on YouTube Shorts. Knight f6 is a very bad move, but not as bad as some of the other moves. The best moves are e6 supporting the center, c6 supporting the center, d4 going for more. I don't recommend that unless you're familiar with queen pawn games with white. Taking, playing in the style of Queen's Gambit Accepted. And then among the other options for black that don't strengthen d5, this is probably the best, but it's still not good. Now, Astrobate, you have to take. Do you get it now? Do you get what I'm talking about? Like, you take out your weapon. You said, "Give me your money." The guy's like, "No, I won't give you my money." All right, you don't pull the trigger. You need to play c takes d. You threaten to destroy his center, and then he doesn't defend it, and then you don't take. Can you explain to me why? Because we've seen you play like black, right? d4, knight f6, knight f3. Just explain this to me, right? When you're black, we've seen multiple instances of this. You will do c5. How many instances of this have we seen, right? Bishop f4, pawn takes pawn, correct. Knight takes, and then e5, winning a piece. How many times have we seen this? You love to do this, right? You associate it with this fun trap-like idea, but it's all created by the fundamental underlying principle of gaining control of the center. You play c5, execute your threat, man. So here, you played c4, he doesn't defend it, and you don't execute the threat. This is a very bad move now. You go from the frying pan into the fire. Well, actually, you went from, eating dinner at the table to in the fire. Knight c3, a very bad move, allowing d4 now with advantage to black, I would assume. You're not equal, you're worse after d4. First of all, it's surprising black found this. Secondly, you played the best move now, knight a4. I don't know if I would find knight a4. I might pack it in with knight b1. And I might play knight b5 to put pressure on d4. But after c5, knight a4 is surprisingly probably the best move. But black's already better. And now c6. This doesn't make a ton of sense. No. But what should black do? I mean, I think it's fairly solid to play knight to c6 to reinforce d4. Support e5. Kind of no-brainer there. And then other options, g6, maybe bishop g4. No, although even here, maybe this attacking b7 is a bit of an annoyance. So I think that black should just go ahead and play knight to c6. And you got to explain to the crowd, of spectators and Emery Tate, holding court, people's, why is there knight on a4 and how is it justified? It's not. The lesser of the evils. So after knight a4, c6, weird move. What's his idea with c6? He's trying to trap your knight with b5. Fuck, I just realized. When your opponent makes a move, especially a strange one like c6 that doesn't have an obvious purpose, my first, usually, step is to say, well, what the hell is my opponent doing, You know, I want to understand when you're analyzing games as well. Coffee House Chess subscribe. Thank you for subscribing with Prime. Cafe House Chess. Not Coffee House Chess, that's a different name. Cafe House or Kave House in Hungarian. You got 2150 Rapid. I told you so. Thanks for subscribing, guys. We got a gift sub. Sorry, Prime sub. Astrobate, it's important to understand what your opponent is doing. It looks like you caught it because b5. He's starting b5, trapping your knight. You know, and so the passive player plays b3 now, and on b5 they bring their knight back to b2 with the fianchettoed knight. I was telling Astrobate earlier that he needs to be a little bit more Jason Voorhees and a little bit less Mr. Rogers. Gotta be bloodthirsty and aggressive. So b3 is a bad move. That's like if you have no other move. Can you prevent b5? Well, I mean, queen b3. c5 would only slow it down. I wouldn't be surprised if you played that move. That's kind of your style. It would slow it down. You know, you would go here, take en passant, and then again you have to resolve the same problem, most likely. But I think you found the best move. This is a dual-purpose move. e3, it undermines white's center, attacking white's center, but also stops b5. Nice, right? Probably best move. Dual purpose, attack and defense at the same time. Those are the best moves in chess. So now black has legitimate question. No, he can't play b5. Can he renew the threat of b5? Takes on e3. Good. You did manage to get the opponent to surrender that extended pawn on d4. Now naturally, you took with the f pawn toward the center. This sometimes can be good in certain situations, but this particular example, I mean, this can be met by bishop d2, but I don't see any reason to allow this. You know, there's no way that you voluntarily want to allow the straight of queens in this position. So I think it's obvious. Like, you know, another option, this is insane, you know, just losing your right to castle. That's really nuts. Okay, so f takes e, and now black played e6. I was thinking some, I don't know, now the knight's very stable. It's coming back to c3. That's not an issue. Black needs to establish a center, but can't sacrifice this pawn. Never say can't. He was a German philosopher. No, maybe e5 worth considering. But a4 knight is defended, so this would be a long-term pawn sacrifice, something like bishop d6. Not completely stupid. I think that it's possibly better than e6. I don't know. I mean, this move is so passive, to be honest, that I think I might prefer to sacrifice a pawn with black than play e6. Seriously. It's just insipid. I would prefer g6 as well. You know, attempting to put my bishop on long diagonal. If he does that, you can counter. Your favorite move, b4? Or just b3? Anyways, alright, let's take a look. So e6, very passive. Now, what's white's best move? Maybe there's more than one good move here for white. But when you have this type of, I don't know what to call it, a Sicilian? Blumenfeld? This bishop is blocked, so it's going to need to go to the fianchetto line here. b3 is still a good move. I like b3, and I like d4. So, other options include passive but playable, like d3. That looks kind of lame. Astrobate decides to play bishop b2. This is not a terrible move, but I will explain something important here. If you're going to play bishop e2, you're really not getting the most active setup. It doesn't really make sense to play, for example, bishop e2 and then d4. If you want to play d4, you should put your bishop on d3, where it's most actively placed, sheltered by the central pawns on c4 and d4. So sorry, I accidentally scrolled forward. Bishop e2, I would like it better if black said c5, and our bishop can go to f3 to that diagonal in the future. Again, a Blumenfeld, if he plays this, we have a very Blumenfeld-like position where you can actually counter his fianchetto bishop with bishop f3 later on. c5 is certainly a move for black, but I don't really see bishop e2. I like this better. This pawn is well protected. This is coming back. You're playing bishop d3, you're castling kingside, you have very strong center. I just want to point out something in these types of structures, that if you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, you have to be careful if you push e4. It's like a note boom. And black can break it up, you know, fix it on one color complex. So black will get in e5 takes, like knight g4, and then you could be left with maybe like a worse pawn structure and weaknesses on the dark squares. So if you get this Blumenfeld type of structure, the moral of the story is that pushing this pawn is not always good. Anyway, bishop e2, now b5. Completely unsound pawn sacrifice. Thank you very much, Jack. We lost the tempo, but I don't trust black's weird Benko gambit here. All right, sorry, I scrolled again. My mouse is really sensitive. And honestly, if I was black, I think I would rather go here, right? Laters. All right, laters. So thanks for subscribing on Prime. Coffee House Chess. Join us tomorrow or Tuesday or Sunday simul. So tomorrow is Friday Blitz. Sunday simul. What's up, producer? If you play knight d7, black can put the bishop on b7 and at least have a very strong diagonal. This move trades off that bishop that could otherwise have occupied a great diagonal. So I don't know. You know, maybe he could put his queen on it. Here. Tough call now. I think there's a case for bishop e2. The long-term protectorate of the king side. Knight's coming back. Another move that's strange but interesting, knight c3. Why not? When we make exchanges, we want to make exchanges on our terms. But Astrobate, I don't really like your queen out here. It seems kind of exposed to me. Upside, not a lot of upside. So bad move a6, not particularly constructive. Takes, check, knight takes. But I see this queen as exposed, not really benefiting us. I don't think you should bring your queen out to b3. Castles, okay. Rook b8, c. And now queen d3. Again, a strange square for the queen, blocking your d pawn. Feels much more natural to go here. And your knight has been on a4 since move 4, but the odds are it should be coming back to c3. And in that way, it will shield your queen naturally anyway along the c-file. And you can complete your development with d4 or b3. So I don't get putting your queen here either. This is going to inhibit your pawn. You're hitting a6, okay. A minor threat. a5, b3 is a good move. Knight d5. Now see, you're just going to get attacked again. If you play a3, you weaken your structure. He also has queen f6. But as much as I've been critical of Mr. Coffee, what's up? Mr. Coffee, we're meeting tomorrow. I hope all is well. You know, it's not all downside here. Acerbate's opponent is not castled, and they're neglecting development, much like Astrobate did a little bit. Money sent. Okay. It was a weird amount, so I wasn't sure. All right, so 94. Yeah. Don't know. Why not develop your pieces? You know what? When I was at the World Senior, Alonso Zapata was my big discovery. And the Colombian Grandmaster, who lives in the States now since a while, became a good friend. We had played before, but we never really hung out. And Alonso has these funny gimmicks where he's like, "What's the most important concept in chess?" Or what's the most important? His favorite is, "What's the most important?" What's the word I'm looking for? What's the most important advantage, or what's the most important dynamic? And I'm like, space. No, king safety. He's like, nope. He's like, but location, right? Location. I'm terrible at telling jokes. Location, he does this like realtor thing. I guess like realtors, when they're like selling property and stuff, they're like location. I don't know where that started, but Alonso does that joke. So I couldn't guess it right. I said all these things like development, king safety. He's like, nope. Location. Okay, so fine. But he's not developed. His king is not in the center. Black can't be playing knight 95. You also should develop your freaking pieces here. 94, a weird way to answer 95. Knight b4, okay. And then, okay, your queen went back to a safe square. I like it. This is not absurd to go to e4 either. You will get hit by knight f6 there. So I like e2. g6 now. Black obviously intends to play that. Now, I think you're winning material with a3 and knight c6. Well, G Souths is here. Long time no see. We had a Prime sub, which is unusual. Amazon still owns Twitch. I forgot, of course. Guys, please subscribe. So I'm not going to beg anybody for subscribing. Mr. Coffee. Well, that's crazy. How do you know that? You didn't get a rate change. You didn't get a rate change in your mail. All right. Mr. Coffee knows everything. You didn't get a rate change notification. The storage unit you're required to notify the customer in advance if you're raising the rates. Oh, did I say something on stream? Yeah. All right, but we'll talk about it later. It's not, you've got a locked in price. You don't have to raise the rate. Raising rates is optional. For established customers. Yeah, no. Don't feel obligated to pay more. I've been forced to raise my rates because other people are charging more, and I have an obligation to them, and also to stay competitive. But I do live in Hungary, and I pass on savings to consumer. That's how I can afford to charge less than most people my level. I'm not trying to shortchange anybody by charging less or undercut the competition. But I do have a lower rate than most IMs my level. But honestly, if people are already taking lessons with me for a long period, I don't expect them to necessarily, increase the rent control. G6, Queen F3. So, Here. Okay, this game over. Yeah, this guy's 1621. Well, his F7 is attacked. But Astrobate, by the way, you have a forced win. No? A3? What do you think, guys? Is this a forced win? If the knight moves, we fork him. Forkington. He only has one square, which is 95, and then knight c6, right? Game over. There is a defense for black, though. So, Astrobate not calculating enough, but I guess black can play e5. A preemptive strike on Greenland. Well, I don't think he has another option. Otherwise he's losing the exchange, at least. And this is a scary... excuse me. COPD again. This is a scary move. Because it does weaken black. Take. You can calculate the forced moves. You have to calculate the forced moves first. Check. And then interpose something here on e7. It's not great for black, but it's better than losing the exchange for nothing, I guess. Praying Mantis is back. Okay. So, Pichu, who actually we hadn't seen in a long time, was here in the stream. I saw he was analyzing with you on the Sunday Simul game, Praying Mantis, and had nothing but good things to say about you. I know he's a Hungarian, so... Alright, so... Queen f3, still a good move. Can't black defend? I mean, we have a couple of defenses, right? Knight e5, attack and defense, and obviously Queen e7. All right, but black plays f5. This is very dubious. We win a central pawn on e6, and now queen f6. So maybe this is his idea, but I mean, of course you could come back. Among others, you also have bishop b2. For some reason, Astrobate doesn't like moving his knight off of a4. It's been there for a long time now. You could just play bishop there. If knight e5, I mean, there's a million moves here. It still could get a little bit odd, a bit confusing. So anyway, I don't think this is a bad move. You come back. It's a bit passive, though. I mean, if we can maintain the knight there. The other interesting possibility would be to ignore. Let's say knight takes f8. Queen takes b2. I mean, you have so many possibilities here. Knight takes d7. King takes d7, bishop e2, queen a2, bishop takes h8, rook takes h8. I mean, black is history here, most likely. So I think Astrobate has a lot of ways to win. But this one, not so much. Now, why doesn't black develop his freaking pieces? I don't understand. He has to develop his pieces somehow. Move the bishop and castle. But he just doesn't. Okay, this attacks the queen here. And now king f7, almost like castling. Here, queen d6. This is bigly. Very bigly sacrifice. Yeah, he does it. It's hard to resist that. That's very strong. Knight takes f5. Oof. G takes f5. Rook takes f5. Check. We double attack e5. We're totally winning. Check. Black's king is totally open. Check. King d8. Rook e6. Queen b2. Rook d1. You have rook d1 here. Astrobate do more puzzles. You know what I like to do? The puzzle streak. There's not a lot of pressure, you know what I mean? You don't have like a time limit. Just do the puzzle streak and get them right. It's, I think, much more beneficial than like puzzle races or puzzle, puzzle bomb or whatever. Just do the streaks. I got like 50 yesterday. You know what that happens to me though? I'm doing the puzzles on my phone. And I always lose my streak because I like make a mouse slip, a phone slip, like on the mouse. I touch the wrong square and I lose my like 50 game puzzle streak because I pressed E7 instead of E8 or something. It's like, ah. Anyway, good game, Masturbate. This was a pretty good game. But the opening was an abomination. Yeah, no play here for black. He has one last try, which he should try. Actually, he doesn't have one last try. Queen F1 is protected. I was going to say knight E1. He has a mate, but he doesn't. He doesn't even have one last try. Does black even have any way to theoretically win this position? Yeah, okay, knight E1 to threaten mate on G2. That's his last chance. But after this, no hope. Okay, so what's up, Sun Prism? You're here. You're next. But Astrobate, I don't know. I think you should calculate more. You don't calculate systematically enough. All right, Sun Prism is next. Just one last thing, Astrobate. Please try to focus more in the first couple moves of the game. Like, your biggest mistakes are on like move 2 and 3. I mean, here, after C4, knight F6, this is the first huge mistake. You go from like +1 to -1 with this move. I think you're like pre-moving. Can you submit a game for analysis? You're a subscriber, absolutely. Estan. All right, absolutely. So, Sun Prism, this is an OTB game. Sun Prism Nefedov, Deathmatch Showdown. ECF ratings. Is it ECF or BCF now? I get confused and I can't even remember. In the last few years, the British or English Chess Federation has changed over to, I guess since before COVID, I don't remember. They changed over to four-digit rating system. They used to have the weird 3-digit ratings. I used to have one. I was like 195 or something. I don't know. I couldn't get to 200. I didn't have enough games. If you were 200, you were pretty good. Anyway, it always confused me. But I guess it's kind of the same thing. 200 is like 2,000 or something. Anyways, I never thought about it that way, oddly. Yeah, that's weird. It was just maybe a weird, basic same thing. Alright, so you're white. It's from third round of local tournament. You're 1945. The ECF ratings are, I don't know how much deflated or inflated they are versus FIDE, but now that we have ratings in the UK with 4 digits, I know that most countries, like I have another student in Denmark, they also have their own rating system. Hungary doesn't, and long hasn't had their own rating system here since, I don't know, the 90s or something. So here it's weird. I don't know what happens if a tournament, like, come to think of it, if a tournament isn't FIDE rated, like, I guess it's not rated at all. I don't know how it even works, but all right. Yeah, it's kind of weird. When I first came to Hungary in the 90s, they had a rating system. They should be comparable to FIDE. USCF ratings, for example, are inflated by about, they used to be inflated by 100 points. They're probably still 100 points inflated. Yeah, my USCF rating is like 100 points higher than my FIDE. Knight F3, D6, Bishop B5 check, and D7. I think Knight D7 is best. But objectively, I've played Knight C6 a lot, and Bishop D7 is the most common move. Because, you know, the human beings don't necessarily like imbalance, and I think the people they gravitate toward safer. The like trade of pieces is the most balancing move. Higher draw percentage there, I would imagine. Knight c6 is very imbalancing, allowing doubling of pawns and the trade of bishop for knight. And knight d7, not justifying the exchange as much. So knight d7 is the most aggressive move for black. It's Kasparov favorite from the 90s. I always stayed away from it because, okay, I don't play that many Roslimos with black, but it felt like you need a lot of theory because black can linger in development here, and it can be dangerous. You have to really know what you're doing with black. I mean, you can play this with white with limited knowledge. You move your pieces out, you castle, it's fairly safe. To play it with black, I think you have to know what you're doing. And I'm prepared to play it now. Castle's not the only move. Like in the old days, d4 was the number one move. But this is one of those situations, where we could make a YouTube clip about this. This is one of those situations that makes chess difficult. Because when you play chess, there are various principles. That was like what I think Alonso Spata was talking about. What's the most important principle in chess? Principle is the word I was looking for. Real estate, location. So, no, but when you evaluate certain positions, there are competing principles, and that's when it gets hard. So, you got someone who says, "Well, bishops are worth more than knights," and then someone else who says, "You're supposed to open the position when you have the bishop pair." Well, here's an example of one of those situations where it's very likely that black might take the bishop pair, but should he open the position because white is ahead in development? What good is a bishop pair if black's pieces aren't developed? If he opens the position, he gets blown away. So it's not so easy to use these cliches to evaluate positions. You have to consider which principle is more important than the other. Castle is a good move, but it's not the only move. As I said, the older move is d4. Castle is the modern move. I mean, I think the point is bishop d3, and I don't know the history of the Rosslimo, or what's this called, the Moscow variation or whatever. When I was growing up in the 90s, it was considered like a sissy variation. In the 80s, in the late 80s, early 90s, aggressive players didn't play this stuff with white. It was kind of lame, safe, boring. But I think what changes the dynamic here is and John Curto, who I knew was an attacking player, would always play d4. He was one of the few people I knew. He once beat Robert Byrne in a game in an international tournament, which was one of his biggest wins, with d4. Byrne was black in this line. But I think that the moral of the story is castles a6, and in the old days, everybody took on d7, because that's the concept, right? You're ahead in development, open the position, boom, 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 trade, open the position. Black can take either way, d4, open the position. So it was just assumed that this is the way that white should play. And then slowly, there became a realization that black was okay in these lines. Black is actually okay in these lines. Black doesn't even have to take on d4. Theoretically, I guess you can even play like e6 or something. But this is still the main move. This is still the main line. Queen takes d4, e5, queen d3, h6 to prevent bishop g5, etc., etc. But what I want to say is Magnus, or someone who influenced Magnus, came along and introduced this idea. And this move looks fucking stupid. If I'm going to be honest, it looks fucking stupid, right? At first glance, it's ugly and it looks stupid. And it goes against the whole concept. What we thought was the whole concept of the position, right? We're heading development, but I don't know if it was a computer or maybe some random player, but this is where Magnus is really Specialized played a lot of games, and I know there's a lot of courses on these type of setups, but the idea is basically either like a Kopek, where we come back with c3 and bishop c2, or rook e1, and still we can come back to f1, but usually c3 and bishop c2. So a whole rethinking of how to play with the white pieces, and I think this is why the variation like became popular again, because these lines are kind of analyzed to death. I think the conclusion is that black is okay here. Though I thought Magnus has probably played this as well. I may be wrong. You know, I don't see any Magnus games in the list here. So even like 15 years ago, this was still the main line. This bishop d3 is relatively new, at least in terms of being played on a high level on a regular basis. So anyways, that's what happens in the game. So you castled, he played a6. a6 is not obligatory either. Knight f6 is a good move. I don't know if it's better to play a6 or knight f6. It's unclear. So a6, bishop d3, and now when this bishop is on d3, I've had a real because I've been analyzing with black how to play these lines. I've had this, not just this line, other lines like the c3 Sicilian, my game against Belia from the World Senior where he did like a Kopek. The realization is that g6 is very good, specifically because that bishop is often just like kind of dead as far as attacking goes. Black will play g6 and there's nothing you could really do. Against Belia at the World Senior also, I had bishop here. He came back here. His bishop later redeployed it. That's all they can do. They hope to redeploy the bishop eventually from c2 to like b3. So g6 is a good move. And, you know, my assumption would be that c3. c3 is standard. And the plan, you know, may involve rook e1 as well. But I think we want to play c3, bishop c2, and d4. That's the main plan. Okay, so rook e1 instead. And this, you know, now we have two ways to go. One interesting difference is that, you know, sometimes black can do moves like knight e5. I don't know how that plays into this, for example. Here we see a couple of examples of knight e5. It's probably not good. Rook e1, bishop g7, and now c3. And now black plays e6, which is a theoretical novelty. But the first thing that really surprises me about this position now is that black has, I mean, there are just so few games. Look how few games there are. What's up with that, by the way? There are only 11 games that have reached this position. That's incredibly hard to believe. But maybe the point is like we don't need rook e1. Someone on sound, yeah. Some Prism and someone on sound sort of sound similar. The moral of the story is that rook e1 isn't necessary because e4 isn't attacked by anything. There might even be a case where you'll play f4 later on. But I guess this is why this is more widely played. We play rook e1 if we have to, not because we need to. Bishop g7, bishop c2. Now we see this is a move. Knight e5 is a move. Knight f6 is a move. There's no need for rook e1. Yeah, bishop f1, though, it's not as active. Bishop f1 is slightly less active than bishop c2. And I think the main reason for that, like I said, because of your chances of getting the bishop to that diagonal later in the future. So rook e1 isn't bad, but I guess it's slightly inaccurate. Okay, c3, e6. This is a weird move by black. It's not clear. I guess he wants to play knight e7. It's not at all absurd. It's a reasonable move, but it's certainly not needed. I mean, normal thing to do here is knight f6. You play whatever, bishop f1, and then black decides whether or not he wants to play e5. He'll probably need to play e5. And I know as a Sicilian player, I don't really like playing e5, but I think this setup might require it. You do see a bunch of games here with knight e5. This is a way of swapping pieces. If you take, then the backwardness here factors in. It's kind of awkward. So anyway, e6 is new. Probably not a great move. It's a little bit passive, and now you played a4. But our main goal here is to establish, I think a very ideal pawn center. And I don't care if you play bishop c2 or bishop f1, but I think you should play one or the other. Let's get this thing off this stupid square, Bishop f1 or bishop c2. I think we're threatening to play d4. And now he's played that. He's probably going to play knight e7. We're going to play d4. And we're better. It's like a Ruy Lopez. It looks like black is playing a hippo, to be honest with you. He doesn't have much here other than really literally like doing a hippo with b6 or b5. But I'm not... Yeah, b5 might be coming. But that doesn't make it good. A lot of times b5 is a liability for black, not necessarily a benefit. Particularly if your bishop goes to f1. You always have the ability to undermine him with a4. So I guess it also depends on where you plan to go. If you play bishop c2, yeah, he'll probably play b5. But I would say that our plan here is, d4. A normal thing would be like take, bishop b7, and then you have to decide which way you want to go with your queen knight. Okay, let's see. It's interesting though. Nothing wrong with a4. It's another pawn move. It might be slightly weakening. It's not necessarily bad, but I do want to comment on the fact that the more pawn moves you make, the less flexibility you have. So if you play a4, and this is the case here, by playing a4, later, if you play bishop c2 and d4, for example, you will have a weakness on b4. So let me just throw this out there. Here, whatever. Here, castles, d4, takes. The point I'm trying to make is there are ramifications. The more pawn moves you make, the more weaknesses you create. And so there are negative ramifications. It's not all upside. Playing a4 is not just like you get more space and you shut him down. You also weaken yourself at the same time. So it's tricky to say if you should play a4 or allow him to play b5. Okay, he's not even threatening to play b5 yet. If you play bishop c2, he can play b5. So that was your point. Okay, so bishop c2. Obviously black could play something like rook b8. Here, d4. And now if he trades, you get a good square for your knight on c3. But as I said, he gets b4. And by the way, would you ever consider taking with a knight on d4? It's very passive, It's possible. It's kind of safe and lame. This is not an impressive move, but playable. He does have kind of a weird pawn on d6 with some backwardness here. Maybe the fact that he's played this weird setup with knights like that, the d6 is a bit weak, would lend us to serious considering of this move. Otherwise, I would never take with a knight. But it's hard to get your other pieces out. So he doesn't take. He doesn't have to. Okay, he plays queen c7. the fact of the matter is, this advance is in the position. It can happen now, and the position can transfer to a kind of Benoni. It's probably too early for it to be good, you know. Take, might be 6, and it looks rather problematic as to how white would really defend that pawn. But I'm just bringing to the obvious attention of everyone that d5 is a possibility. I don't know. You have to consider all your options. Bishop g5. Developing for the sake of developing. Bishop f4. Again. Knight a3. Sort of suboptimal. And I think in this kind of situation, we probably should take back with the knight now. It's like a c3 Sicilian. Lobster claws. Yeah, I mean, the fact that we've played a4 weakens our b4 square, so I'm less reluctant, you know, or I'm more reluctant to not allow that weakening of b4. Queen c7 is a good move. So bishop b3, this is like, doesn't really do anything. You just maintain, you actually have bishop takes d4, that's interesting. A third way to capture at d4. b6, the hippo, knight on bd2. And so if he exchanges on d4, which way do you take back? All options are on the table. Pawn takes is the most aggressive. And again, I point out this square as a very important concept. I don't know which way you take. You know, all ways of taking are possible. He obviously doesn't have to do that. Bishop b7. And now you play knight f1. Not a move I like here. You don't have e5, you don't have d5. I think there's a lot of Slav players who would probably play rook c1 at this point. My favorite active move. No, Kamsky, for example. If Kamsky was playing white, I don't want to set Nefedov off, but you could look at it like a kind of Tory attack. Maybe we even play b4. But after bishop b7, I mean, this feels kind of routine, but I see you want to go to g3, get the knight out of the way. I hate this square for the knight because it has nowhere to go. It's a typical problem. A typical problem in the Ruy Lopez. But, you know, maybe we could play something else. Speaking of piece clumps, I mean, this looks stupid. Is it stupid to play bishop d3? You know, like, at this point, we don't have a reason to have our bishop on c2 versus d3. Maybe bishop d3, I don't know. I'm just a caveman. Some scientists found me, thawed me out. What is this demons in the microwave? So, yeah, it's a complicated position. All pieces on the board. I love that, right? It's all the pieces are on the board. I had like 28 moves in one of my games at the World Senior where no exchanges against Duong. No, maybe there was an exchange. I thought one of my games was like that. This move, I don't know. Rook a c8. Okay, black's very solid. And there it is, the Slav, favorite of every Slav player. For me, little bit surprised you went rook c1 instead of completing the thought. The other thing that comes to mind, I understand now why, because you wanted to guard c2. But the other thought is like queen d2. Black will take. You wanted this protected. I don't mind this exchange of bishops on h6 if we can get it. So probably take with the knight. This square is terribly weak. And that's something like that. This is an issue. Anyways, you wanted to take back with the pawn. So now, yeah, queen b8. And knight g3. And so he has, as I wanted to point out in many examples, this type of thing. Sorry, wrong knight. Here. But it looks like at this point you've got everything under control. Now you're getting closer to like an ideal setup. You've got the queen on d2, two knights over here, ready to play bishop h6 in some positions. Maybe even h4, h5. Black's queen on b8 is really not ideal. This is not an ideal. This is not really a hedgehog. And it's not a hedgehog because if it were a hedgehog, the pawn would be on c4. And there'd be open play here. It's a little better for white. We have a d pawn instead of a c pawn. Knight f6, queen d2, and now knight g4. So maybe we need that classic h3 here. That's an obvious move that you chose not to play. I would imagine Sun Prism is considering what to do in the event of queen a8. But I do think you have moves. You know, bishop g5, bishop f4. So there is time to play h3 if you want to. This congests your bishop though. Like if you went here, you could always bring the bishop back to d2. But after this, you can't now. Move 11 might be familiar with the concept of knight to g4. Guys, please subscribe. If you learn anything, subscribe. If you forget anything, unsubscribe. Or if you just hate me, unsubscribe. Bishop f4 gets hit with e5 in some lines, though it's still playable. Bishop g5. Seem familiar? Move 11? But the thing is, like, f6 will be very weakening. Very weakening for black. So it's possible the knight g4 is actually a mistake. Very big tariffs after f6. Did I tell you guys about this? Diagonal. Transfer to b3. Ah, I hate when I click on the wrong thing. God damn it, Jerry. God damn it, Jerry. This is a long game. Holy shit. So, knight g4, bishop g5. This is also a possibility. Very weak. Why not maybe rook e8 or knight c6? No, it just occurred to me that you also have this in some positions. But I think that black is in trouble. He did play knight c6. And then queen f4. So as the computer points out, this is pretty complicated after like f5. Your queen is in a strange position. But it does look good. You probably just take. That's a Feingoldism. Always take on f5. It's like the only thing that Feingold's ever been right about. Chess-wise. Alright, so f5. E takes f5. E takes f5. Yeah, this is very promising for white. He has too many weaknesses, too many pawn moves. But it's easy to miss queen f4. It's kind of an unusual square. If you play the same as King's Indian, like I used to, that was a kind of typical theme. You played h3, black goes back, and now very hesitant move by white. But safe. I mean, obviously queen f4 here. To be honest, this looks pretty good, man. Black has to play knight d7. And then you have queen h4. And what's he going to do? You've got very, very, very straightforward attack, it looks like. Take a pawn. He can try to take a pawn. Yeah, maybe. Maybe you get away with it. I like your position, though. It's ideal position for white. This is also... obviously fine. If you play bishop h6, black, in some cases will try to put the pawns on dark squares. But you haven't promised to exchange bishops. So you never know. The bishops are not off the board yet. If the dark square bishops are exchanged, black should think about putting their pawn on e5. So you played this very, very quiet move here, bishop b1. In a situation where I'm looking for like a kill. In fact, now that I mention it, e5 is for the first time looking... I mean, I think you should be looking for kill moves here. I was saying to Asterbay he needs to play more like Jason Voorhees. Black doesn't have take knight d7. e5 could be very strong. Needs to be calculated. This is very hesitant. And now queen a8. Yeah, weird moment for black to play queen e8, to be honest. That looks bad, I mean, for crying out loud, you have this triple protected. It's like overprotected. And his queen has just a tiny bit of relevance on b8. I think this is the wrong plan. Honestly, like a hedgehog, of course, with the knight on c6, and then this diagonal doesn't work really well either. So he's in a lot of trouble now after queen a8. Queen f4, and then you're hitting d6. Is e5 possible? Because of discovered attacks. This looks like a golden opportunity for black, but I'm not sure if it works. Takes. Knight takes e5. All sorts of shit going on now. I mean, knight e5, queen e5, knight takes e4. So somebody's going to need to explain to me like why black doesn't have e5 here. Okay, you would play queen h4. And, that answers that question. But, yeah, actually your attack is quite strong still. You have this. You have bishop a2. You have threats of knight sacrifices like knight f5, the d5 square. Yeah, it looks very good. I mean, he's going to have to retreat. But there's no absolute clear knockout, it feels like. This looks really good. You could play a slower move like d5, just stuffing him. But I don't know, Bishop h6, controversial, very natural looking move. But it's not an easy win. I think e5 was a better try. So this is extremely passive. You play d5 now. It's a really tough call. I mean, e5 is very tempting. That looks double-edged. You could just wait and maybe play queen h4. No, actually you can't because of d4. You can't because of d4. So he is threatening this. So bishop h6 is possible. Black would probably play e5. So you played d5, disruptive move. It can't be bad. Oh, I see. Wow. So you're actually winning the exchange with this move. I did not realize that. Or threatening to win the exchange. So the idea is that you get control of e7, trap his rook on f8. Did you guys see, there was in the New York Times or Washington Post about Naroditsky? Probably this is old news. I just noticed it yesterday. Like the tests were released publicly that he had amphetamines and other stuff in his system at the time of his death. So I guess Kramnik is like very relieved that he can't be blamed exclusively. Raises other questions though. I wonder how commonly these guys who play mad, insane bullet chess are like using drugs to enhance their play. I would never do amphetamines. Like very hardcore stimulants, they don't do well with me. They're not always due to drug abuse. Really? Well, what are they? What can they be due to, Chessy, Prescribed Ritalin? Uh-huh. Well, anyway, okay, interesting. More I know. Anyway, I was surprised because it was kind of like buried in the news. It was very, very buried. But I think that there's limited amount of information. You can't perform an autopsy. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention it while we're playing chess. I hadn't seen anything mentioned about Naroditsky in forever, so I was a little surprised to see this drug test or whatever you call it be released publicly to some degree. But Dr. Zebra knows much more than me about, obviously, medical questions. All right, so knight e5, bishop e7. We win the exchange. So can black do anything else? What about taking? Let's ask a question here. Why not take on d5? With that aside, Chessy, that aside, I'm just saying with these hardcore people who are really heavily into like bullet, and I would imagine other kind of gamers, there has to be issues with people using drugs. I mean, like doping, basically. I would imagine it's a common occurrence. And probably a lot of people who you might not expect, using drugs for like performance enhancing purposes. I imagine playing bullet chess might be the kind of thing that amphetamine might help. Anyway, e takes d5. E takes d5, and there's no knight e7 available. But I mean, I think you would open up some pressure on this d5 pawn, so this is an issue in and of itself right away. I'm just saying if black can get this, right? He's got a world of better chance than not getting that pawn on d5. It's a major pawn, and it gives him some play on the long diagonal. So, In a vacuum, if you have the choice between taking on d5 and not taking on d5, before playing knight e5, let's just say, I would probably lean toward taking on d5. Let's see what the computer says. It does not like taking on d5. But why? Okay, there's a high-level combo here. Wow. Check this out. Takes, knight e5, and kablang. That's why it's not good to take on d5. Really? That can't be right. Wow. There's another trick, there's another subtlety here. Because if you take, and white takes, you have knight g6. So this only works because knight f5, you accept a sacrifice, and then white has this in-between move, taking on e5, it looks like. The in-between move, capturing on e5, threatening to take on f5, and then mating on h7. So the sequence is really important. Though it's not surprising, given all those pieces around the black king, you know? I would have gone like right into this if I were black. Because it looks like it's better to take on d5. It's hard to see knight f5. A lot of people would have seen knight f5 and then rejected it because of knight g6. So you have to time it perfectly. Knight f5. If he takes here, okay, bfd. I mean, I imagine we take with the pawn, right? Don't tell me take with the queen. You can actually take with the queen because d5 is indirectly defended by knight e7 check. That's funny, right here. This is amazing. Black is really crushed by knight f5. So he was right. You win the exchange. You win the exchange with bishop e7. Check, takes, and now he takes. But, okay, he gets a pawn, but you're still holding the line on the diagonal. You take on f8. If he takes on e4, you take with a knight, I guess. I was wondering about rook takes. The issue is really, man, I would think this knight f5 thing is still in the air. There's some crazy ideas like this, maybe. That's too much. Rook takes. That's not good. Bishop takes. d5. And then bishop takes e7. Pawn takes e4. How does that work? How does that work? Black's just still down the exchange, right? He's just down the exchange. Okay. Yeah, nothing fancy there. So bishop takes f8, bishop takes f8. Rook d1 takes, no. b5. I mean, if he can keep the stars for bishop, he has some sort of something anyway, you know, a very strong darks for bishop. But what about this? You're just playing c4. So he's basically inhibiting c4. But you have rook down. Very strong. f6, not an ideal move. e6 is gone. Rook d, e1, threatening. Alright, rook takes e8, check. And if bishop takes d5 now, what am I missing? You're just allowing it, okay. You have like bishop e4. Well, I mean, at the very minimum, you have this, which looks extremely strong. So rook e6 is a mistake, apparently. I mean, are we going to do the knight sack again? Do you have stuff like knight h5 at this point? Oh, knight takes it. Rook takes h7. That's cool. But it's not the only combo, right? This I guess, bishop takes e7 is a lot as well. But who knows? You know, I mean, even this might work. Bishop takes d5 is probably an issue. Like, even that would probably work, because at the end of the day, you have check, takes, check, and takes. Still rook e1 at the end. I don't know. It's very complicated. So you're looking for these sacrifices. If time is an issue, I mean, knight f5, still in the position. You wanted to make a rook move, but the rook move isn't obvious. If you sack the exchange, you're just down, well, it's equal material. I mean, you could play rook takes b7 and be better here. This seems ridiculous. You could also just retreat. In a worst case scenario, rook e2, bishop takes d5, I like white. To be honest, I think you're probably winning, you know, with a simple variation. Coming back all the way. Let's see. It's enough. The computer doesn't like bishop takes e4 for some reason. I don't really understand, but it keeps wanting to do this. I guess it's more brutal. So simply retreating all the way. But how bad is rook e6? I don't think it's that bad. You know, it's giving you, the computer's giving you like a double question mark. But why does it matter that much? I mean, after this, don't you have bishop e4 anyway? You're still winning. So he has another move here, but what? F5. I mean, come on, he's lost. It's ridiculous to give you a double question mark blunder. So you repeated position once and then played rook d7. It's still fine. It's still fine. You got to be like mating him now. This gives him some blockage, like here, takes. He can block. No, can't block. So you can play knight f5. He can't take it. But it's like, what are you threatening? Nothing really. Bishop takes d5. You're gonna have to go here. You have to be winning. It's totally winning. Hope you're not in time pressure. Dr. NPC. So f5, knight g5. Yeah, f5 looks suicidal. F5 looks suicidal. I don't know. So queen f4, your favorite square. You played queen g3. It's tempting to like sack your queen. Rook e8. I want to do this. You know, rook e8, knight here. Check. King h2, bishop takes f3, knight f6 check, you know, mate. Astrobate, but I doubt that's really working. So f5. He's not threatening anything. Well, he's not threatening to take the knight, because you have mate. But how do we make progress? It's another funny move that you could play as someone. You could do like that. You could play c4. Force him to take, and then bring your knight back to c3 to guard the d5 pawn. That's probably not good enough. You have to go forward. So knight g3 also to sacrifice on f5. He can probably play knight g7. Yeah, g5 makes the most sense, but what to do after bishop takes d5? I don't know. I don't know where to go. G3 looks okay, but I guess f4 is more active. There's also like a million squares. I mean, obviously e2. He can't take on g2. I mean, there's no threat. You don't have to defend your g2 pawn. Clearly, that's your consideration here. You're threatening to take on h7. On the next move, that's going to be very strong. So if you play, for example, queen e2, he has knight f6, guarding h7. It's so annoying. I don't see a way to kill him, you know. It's understandable, this move, because you're keeping an eye on g6 maybe and discouraging h6. This is a very natural move by black. You have a sack now. You should see this for sure. I just did like a million puzzles last night. I can see like very obvious puzzles. I don't know why you didn't play knight takes h7. I assume both sides are in time pressure. This is awkward. That's very awkward. I had the feeling you might be sacrificing exchange back soon. Yeah, queen h4. For example. Oh, you just have f6. It's over. So he blundered. I assume this is a mutual time pressure situation. Yeah. So what happened? Yeah, queen f6, king g8. Oh, you played queen f7. How mundane. Okay, true. Like, if you play rook g7, he's going to play king h8 anyway. You could sack your rook now, you know? You played the most kind of boring mate with queen f7. All right, good game. And I think that black was outclassed by you in that. But a lot to be looked at. Anyway, Nefedov is up next, then NPC, then Redusa, and then I've got a game from Director. All right, Director Tan. Get PGN. Director Tan. Thank you guys for being subscribers. So this is the only way I can say thank you for being a subscriber. Analyzing your games. Copy. Not the only way, but a good way. So, add a new chapter. Sorry, I'm streaming when I have brain fog. Alright, no, that's your game. Okay, that's last. So we do them in order. Nefedov is here with black against Bill Full. Full Bill. In the real world, just pass the classes, move on to the next thing. I don't remember it all. All right. Phil Bull against Pavel Nefedov. So this is from Wolverhampton. This sounds so cool. The Wolverhampton League. Wolverhampton and District Chess League. Wolverhampton versus Wolverhampton. Oh no. Wolverhampton versus Wolverhampton. Gotta love that name. Can we see the games list? The games list? Nefedov, Man NPC, Redusa, and Eton. Oh, now I know what to play against Nefedov. D4, D5, E3. The Stonewall attack. My first opening. It was a real disaster. Okay. I blame Andy Soltis' worst book for that. The worst book that Andy Soltis ever published on the Stonewall attack. It was all white space. Terrible. F4? They should take his Grandmaster title away for that book. Look how bad White's score is in the Stonewall attack. Yeah, I mean, I guess it shouldn't be that bad. I also play C5. But it's surprising, actually, it's not surprising, it's very surprising to see Nefedov play C5 here. So, Nefedov, I don't know if Nefedov is here. Nefedov, are you here? I'm not here. Nefedov, did you, like, specifically prepare for this guy? Because I would expect Nefedov to go with G6 or C6. For me, it's you're doing it again. You're playing D4. How do you do that? This I would expect. You play G6 setups a lot, or C6. But you go C5 in full white side of the Dutch. No, it's amazing. I mean, you've always played D4 against me. Did you used to play D4 at some point or something? Alright, so you're basically D4. And black is playing... black is playing a Stonewall. If Pavel Blatny's in the list, then it's probably a bad opening. C3. Pavel Blatny, Carsten Mueller, 01. 2001. So here, are we following Kamsky? It's weird how Nefedov just happens to play exactly like Kamsky. Knight c6. And most commonly, white plays probably knight f3 now. But I mean, your opponent's move is perfectly natural as well. Oh no, this is Satsuki Kamsky, see? What a coincidence. Nefedov plays exactly like his coach. I don't know, maybe knight f3 is better. I would think, like, this is still a good move. That's Blatny versus Carsten Mueller. The question being, what black plays if you call the bluff and play h3? So I'm thinking, I want to induce h3 because it's like more weaknesses. If white plays h3, then we go back to f5. It's okay, it's perfectly fine to take, but what I'm hoping is, like, this might even be better. Coincidence? I do not think so. Exactly. I've seen some examples where maybe you even do like an h5. Even though you're, like, technically playing the white side of d4, it's a very special type of position. I think h5 is justified here. But say he goes immediately with g4. What do we do? Do we stick the bishop on e4? Computer thinks white is okay. Isn't that interesting? G4 is the best move. This is very funny. So ultimately, like Stockfish on a fast machine, my computer's fairly fast. It doesn't like bishop g4 the best. It likes c takes d4, c takes d4, bishop f5. The problem with this move, if I turn the engine off, here's Leonid Kritz of all things against Vallejo. 2000, that was like probably world. Well, I mean, I don't remember. Kritz was young. Okay, probably Bundesliga or something. E takes d. This is supposedly best according to the computer. Bishop f5. But I don't know. Anyways, I know the Satsuki-Kamsky game. So I've seen it in the database. But I also studied this back in the 80s. This particular variation, I told you it was my first opening with Stonewall, but I think this variation was in the Encyclopedia of Chess Openings. Like, in all seriousness. This was the recommendation. I don't know who did the ECO chapter on the Stonewall attack for black. But whoever recommended this, I distinctly remember this being the move, like exclamation point, followed by e6, and if h3, you bring the bishop back to f5. There's a very famous game by Akiba Rubinstein where he was white in pretty much the same position, but colors are reversed, you know. So Rubinstein was white, but he was playing against some kind of weird Stonewall, and it's in the book, The Most Destructive Chess Games Ever Played, by the famous author Reinfeld. By Reinfeld, right? 100 most destructive chess games ever played. It's called The Web of Dark Squares. In this case, it was a beautiful game by Rubinstein. I don't remember who it was against. Rubinstein, probably someone pretty good. It was the early 1900s. This is Web of Light Squares is what we're talking about now. The idea is that if takes, black dominates on the white square complex. So anyway, Kamsky knows his Encyclopedia of Chess Openings and thus passes it on to Nefedov. Knight f3, e6, and if h3, bishop f5. Okay. So if not h3, what does white do? And by the way, another thing, like white doesn't have to play knight f3. What other options does white have? Knight e2 should be considered. No good queen moves. This looks stupid. Possible, but looks stupid. Here, I think I like... Don't love that square. So, not a lot of options. I mean, queen a4. What do we do? I guess we play e6, you know. All right. How about his queen a4? Yeah, e6. +1 for black. So let's see. e6, knight of bd2. This is kind of a no-no in the Stonewall, right? As I've tried to teach Astrobate, redundant knights. Another problem is that the knight can get in on e3. You weaken e3. Also, the f4 pawn is a liability. So if we get like cd, cd, cd here, this pawn gets hit, which is going to require white to find a way to protect it. And like g3 is usually not good because it's going to even make the light squares more weak. So I think that's an issue. Bishop d6. And as you can see, well, good players still play the Stonewall. And I learned that in 1985. You know, I quit the Stonewall very quickly. I realized this opening sucks, you know, quite quickly. It's also a very subtle sort of positional opening, and I don't think good for total beginners. So anyway, white played h3 now, which is a TN. And Nefedov could take, but now it seems like the worst moment to take. If you take now, white has knight takes. So this is kind of a no-brainer. Bishop f5, bishop f5, and white has this problem again with pawn takes pawn. So if you went here, I can play pawn takes pawn. If I want to, white would have to take back that way. Anyways, bishop f5, bishop takes f5, e takes f5. Botvinnik, very proud of you here. Nefedov, 95. Botvinnik. And now, what would Botvinnik suggest? I mean, castling is obviously number one. You know, it's interesting. In some instances, I've played games where I would give up my dark square bishop for the good knight. But I have to just want to reiterate to people that this is tricky, because this bad bishop is a bad bishop, but it's actually kind of dangerous because it is unopposed. There are cases where it can become very annoying. So it's not always good to give up, say, a bishop for the knight on e5. We would like to kick the knight out with f6. The proper way to handle black's position, I would say, is like castles, and then a plan involving an eventual f6. E10 says minority attack. I think the minority attack is a normal idea in the structure on the queen side, but with this ruptured, unusual situation here, I think that black has to be more attentive to the center. We're probably going to need to play like g6. I want to get this rook e8, knight e4, or knight somewhere, and f6 to kick the knight off of that. But is there anything else we could do? There is something else we could do. This is rather abstract, but let's take a look at 97. See, it's not good here because he has that annoying check on a4. Okay, let's say castles, white castles. Let's say both sides castle. Now, could we play knight e7? Or is this too slow? I'm afraid of g4, honestly. A little bit. The safest thing to do is to just go into e4. Let him take back, probably to undouble the pawns, and then play for f6. And you're fine. You know, you're definitely at least equal. You're going to kick his knight off f6. Frank Marshall with white, I don't know what he's going to do here. Bishop d2, f6. Here. Knight takes c6, I don't know. Black is better. So Nefedov goes queen b6. This is an interesting move. He has pressure here. He has some tactics. He has pressure on the b2, which ties white down to b2. Very Caro-Kann-like. Nefedov, have you been playing the Caro-Kann secretly again? Chess Zebra says h5 at some point. h5, not absurd. But then a very, very strange move from our opponent, queen a4. I'm like, say what? Yeah, queen a4 is is just bizarre. Do not understand this move. So now if you have castles, and now knight on d to f3. And I think this is a very bad idea for white. But, you know, again, this is why you don't want your knight on d2 in the stone wall. It blocks the bishop. How are we going to get our bishop out? He wants to get his bishop out. Is this playable? I mean, the alternative... Okay, queen on a4 is just stupid. Can we go back to queen a4? He could play b3. See, here we start to see these tactics. Like, Nefedov has possible piece sacrifices and such. Probably not enough yet, but it could happen at some point. Queen e4 is awful. Castles. Then this. Now he's like begging Nefedov to put his knight in e4, but we have to watch this d7 fork. So we can't just plunge our knight into e4 yet. So Nefedov here exchanges pawns, which is okay. White takes back. No, he plays knight takes c6, which is fine with us. I would get it now. I get it now. Wow. So this guy has a stupid tactic with a double attack on c6 and f5. Okay. Well then c takes d is bad. So c takes d is a mistake. Why do we need to play c takes d? Nefedov is fine. Rook f e8, let's say. We could go here. This is very strange. But I mean, even in that instance, we could just go rook e7. Or rook a e8. Interesting possibility. Other possibilities include rook d8, controlling d7 and threatening to go knight e4. But does anybody see any objections to leaving the tension here? Does anyone have an objection to maintaining the tension? You could even play c4, but I think that that's weaker. You know, why release the tension? As I told Asterbait, we want to keep the tension because there's a chance he's going to do this, d takes c, then fine. Let him do d takes c. I want to give him the chance to do that because that's probably favorable for us. In that case, like take here, and game over, you know? This is probably game over because our knight is going to be so much better than the bishop in this sort of situation. This is very promising for black. Alright, so it feels like Nefedov maybe didn't calculate this. Or maybe he did. We need to take it further. So anyway, there is an interesting in-between move. Yeah, I guess I'm not giving him enough credit. He has this in-between move, d takes c3, which was unexpected to both me and his opponent. No, I feel like he maybe miscalculated, but then calculated his way out of it with the following move, d takes c. And this is actually pretty good. Hopefully. So white has given up the center. Huge concession. White recaptures, and now we take with the pawn. There's bishop a3, not possible because of e3. Knight d4, materialistic move. There are two problems. Okay, we don't want a queen trade. We don't want to lose this. We don't want to lose this. We don't want an exchange of queens. And actually, I don't mind c5. If we play c5, we give up the f5. And he's going to get our bishop. I wonder if black isn't still better. Material is equal. White has a very bad bishop. Maybe some chances it gets out to b2, a3. The computer thinks you're winning here, which is really, really extreme. I did not expect to see an evaluation that high. 6 pawns each. White has a bad bishop. He isn't castled. But still. So let's say knight takes f5. What do? Rook f e8. Rook f e8. Knight takes d6. Queen takes d6. Castles. And what would you evaluate this position as? +2 for black. The knight on e4. And the queen and knight combo. If Nefedov knew this was +2 for black, I'm sure he would have allowed it. I would never have given black that big of an edge. I would prefer to be black. I would have guessed, like, black is better by 0.7. Something like the computer can defend the bad bishop. He has chances for the bishop to, even c4 could happen, and the bishop comes to the long diagonal. It's not necessarily dead. So instead, Nefedov goes g6, giving up the c6 pawn. This is also okay. But the number one rule of strategy chess class is not to allow the trade of queens. I didn't want to see a trade of queens. You still don't have to allow a trade of queens. You can still play queen d8. There's some issues though. He goes back, and if we, let's say, try to, maybe rook e8. No, it looks good. It still looks good, Nefedov. Honestly, if you avoid the exchange of queens here. Okay, the thing is, his opponent is like the same rating, although I think Nefedov is better than 1800. Why is it important to avoid the exchange of queens? Because of that knight versus bishop dynamic. It might take like 30 moves, but we're going to get to a situation where our knight's on e4, and we trade the bishop on the knight on d4 and get the same thing again with like queen somewhere on the board with a knight on e4. We have queen and knight combo against the Dr. Bishop. Another thing I don't like about g6, these pawns are very strong and weak. And that's what makes chess hard again. Strong and weak. They're strong neighbors. Giving f5 is actually better than giving the c6 pawn. It was a double pawn anyway, though. Keep these guys alive. I don't know that black's +2, but I knew that I like black better here. I would definitely prefer to give that doubled pawn up to one of the duo of the hanging pawns. So I think this is a mistake. And also the fact that Nefedov weakens the long diagonal here. Say we get to a middle game or end game where Pavel has a knight on e4 and the white has a queen and the bishop. And the problem is, if black doesn't play g6, maybe white can't get some attack against g6. But g6 is going to hurt us in endgames or middle games where maybe somehow that bishop does get to the long diagonal. And if somehow it does, and white has these threats, we're going to be kind of annoyed. Okay, another suggestion for move 11, queen a5. Nefedov doesn't do fancy tactics, okay? I don't know. Queen takes d6, queen takes c3 check. That's too fancy. King d1, knight e4. I'd like to see a move 11 Nefedov match, actually. That would be very interesting stylistically. So, queen takes c6. Yeah, queen a5 is another way to do it. Ultimately, I don't know if our queen is really well placed there, and white would castle, right? Our bishop's hanging. Knight e4. Yeah, queen a5 is decent. He could get a situation where he can try to trade queens again, maybe. No, also, same thing. Maybe you're right, move 11. Maybe queen a5 is even better. It's certainly more active than queen d8. But I think this is a mindless and materialistic way to play. And Nefyadov's winning chances just took a very, very big hit. I still think that black is probably better, but it's way less than it was with the queens off. And I don't know that I really want to win this pawn on b2, you know, on c3, I mean. Okay, it's if the queens are off the board, this diagonal is going to be as dangerous, but it's a weak pawn anyway. You know, it's not like this is, oh, I won a pawn, I'm winning the game, you know. I'm not sure where white should put that knight, though. Like, what's it doing on a5? If you're going to put the knight on square, would it make more sense to go here? I honestly don't quite understand knight a5. Rook takes c3, castles. Black is better, without a doubt, right? This is weak. But even if we win that pawn, it's not going to be that easy to win, because we have an extra doubled pawn. One of the problems with Pavel's position is he has an extra pawn, but it's this doubled f-pawn. Who cares, you know? That's kind of irrelevant in trying to win. So he needs to win another pawn to be up a pawn, really, in a sense. I would expect black here to attack that. You've got to watch bishop b2, though. Okay, bishop b2 is a threat. So rook c2 looks good. I was expecting rook f2, but he plays rook d1. And now rook a c8. And now knight b3. So he went to a5 so he could go to b3. White's holding on, right? I mean, I could lose any position. The number one way to lose a position, Mad NPC, is to lose your sense of danger. Ask yourself if black can lose their sense of danger somehow. And it's almost always possible to do that. But the following move and what is white threatening here? Well, basically nothing. Knight d4, kicking you out of the 7th rank. So, if I'm black, I guess, and you had to make me make a move, I'll probably play a6 and say, look, in case of that, I'll keep your knight off of b5. a6 is a constructive move. It puts the pawn on a light square where it can't be attacked. There's a nice safe default move. What does white do after a6? White has no threats. He'll probably play like knight d4, and we'll pull the rook back somewhere. I don't know where. Here. And then maybe rook b1, and then something like bishop c5. And it's no question. Black is better. But to me, this is something I would do, like in Blitz game. This is like, I'm Nefyadov or Sladgy, and I'm overconfident. I don't know if it's a good idea to do this or not. You know, I gotta say, I think your good bishop is better than that stupid knight. Your knight is definitely better than his bad bishop, but I also think your good bishop is better than his knight. You need to move your bishop not to c5, but to b6. Here's a stupid suggestion. How about bishop c7? Not bishop c5, bishop c7. This might be better than a6. There's one problem. Knight d4, we need a good square. On this, he has this, threatening this, and threatening this. So now we can't go here because of knight d6. So we might end up having to play bishop b8 after everything's said and done there. And even that's okay, but looks like, yeah, there's some counterplay. So that's why I said I think a6 is our best move. It's very subtle. But again, some counterplay for white. Knight d4, rook c4, rook b1, threatening to come down, or b6, b7. Now you play this, though. And so what? You know, it puts this rook on b... What am I... And you put your rook on b7. Who cares? What does that do? You know, this is probably a lot better than what happened in the game. Because now that diagonal is closed. Well, we're winning a piece, but even if we weren't winning a piece, I mean... So bishop c5, knight takes c5, rook takes c5. The problem is this bishop has this diagonal and this diagonal. And Pavel has a lot of weaknesses on the dark squares. So I could see this going wrong. You know, I think the bishop c5 is a very, very lazy move. And then, yeah, he takes it. And while objectively black is probably fine, I'm not sure that black is winning necessarily. Okay, maybe if we can double on the 7th very quickly, we don't get mated on the back rank. But bishop a3, got to be careful. See, it's got that, it's got that, it's got that, it's got that. It's got a lot of squares now. You can't play rook like, well, I mean, if rook c7, suddenly white has bishop d6, bishop e5, knocking your knight out of protecting the d5 pawn. What if your d5 pawn falls? So now this move, keeping d5 protected and putting pressure on this, but not ideal. We really wanted to double rooks on the 7th. Pavel's rook is on a5, bishop e7, and now I'm expecting you to play king g7. And after bishop takes, king takes, you're still better. I mean, you're up a pawn and a rook, and you with a rook on the 7th. I know your pawns are doubled, but I still think that you have some winning chances here. So it's not a no-brainer to play this move. Because put the bishop on d4. And if you put the white bishop on d4, is your knight better than that bishop? Very interesting game. a3, knight b6, where are you going? Jesus Christ, it got to d4. Yeah, now black is fine. I mean, white is fine. At this point, he's fine. And now at this point, you have to reach that acceptance stage where I'm Sladgy and I'm not better. You know, I'm Pavel Nefedov, I'm not better anymore. I admit that I'm an alcoholic and I have a problem. It's very hard to admit that. You know, this bishop is... My game with Radusa from the stream 2 weeks ago, move 11, I showed you that. That was a different situation, but similar. Very similar. Where the bishop's stronger than the knight. How did Nefedov's knight never end up on e4, by the way? The poor guy. It was supposed to be on e4. It ended up on b6. f6. We're drawing. This is a draw. This is definitely a draw. How could Nefedov lose? He could think that he's better here when he's really not. If he is better, it's by some fractional amount. I don't think that anybody's winning here in counterplay. And that is... Now you're overconfident. A normally solid Nefedov, I don't think he would make this move against me. In a simul, Nefedov's offering a draw. He's moving a rook and offering a draw. Like, I don't know, rook a4 or something. Play rook a4 and offer a draw. I guess that might allow rook b5. Maybe rook a4 is not optimal. Okay, h5. Or even king f7. You know, but it's a draw. So here, letting white get active. This isn't a question of not understanding endgames. It's a question of maybe Pavel is overconfident, was trying too hard to win now, but could lose. Which I've done 8 million times. Now white has maybe g4, and that could end up being a kind of outside pawn for white. Objectively, it's possibly still draw. I don't like this g6 pawn, though. I'm having a flashback to the last round of the World Senior when I lost my pawns against Michalewski. If g6 falls, we're done, you know? Knight takes d4, e takes d4, rook c4. We cannot lose this g6 pawn. Rook e3 check, king d6, rook f7. Well, we can't lose both. Rook d4, rook takes f6 check, king c5. I said we can't lose the g6 pawn. Rook f3. Rook a4. King g3. So maybe instead of this, we went from clearly better, almost winning, to worse, to equal, to worse, to now we're clearly worse. But I wonder if there's still the possibility of saving this. Black has two passed pawns. This one and this one. Active king. And white's pawns aren't really out of the starting gate, even though white has a better structure. Now both of our rooks are stupidly placed in front of our passed pawns. Definitely not ideal. What can we do, though? So, okay, rook a4 here, and now you attack g2. Rook d2. Rook takes g6. Rook aa2. King h2. And my question would be, are you lost here? I don't know. White is easier to play because it's very easy to just push the h-pawn. He also doesn't... Again, white's rook is not blocking his h-pawn. Nefedov's rooks are oddly placed in front of both of his passed pawns, which is very strange and suboptimal. I don't think that black is lost here, but I would imagine it's very tricky. We have to decide how to play. Do we advance the d pawn? Do we advance the a pawn? Do we try to put the rooks behind and go behind with the check on h1 to get behind his h pawn? He lost on time. So he played d4. I don't know if this is best or not. White's rook can also get behind. If we push the a pawn, the white rook will be able to get like behind it. He can't do that with the d pawn. The d pawn is also closer. So I think d4 is probably okay. I wonder if black... I can't imagine if black is seriously better. I mean, okay, f5 might fall, but it probably doesn't matter. We're all in on this passed d pawn. The f pawn is... forget about it. It's gone anyway. So Redusa said draw. I think it's probably a draw too, but a very complicated draw, with chances for both sides to lose. Pavel's all in with the passed d pawn. White might have to sacrifice the rook. I think that white will eventually have to sacrifice a rook at some point, and we could get into some kind of insane endgame, like rook and two connected passed pawns against two rooks or something. All kinds of possibilities here. So let's see. It's equal according to the engine. White played h4. and black lost on time. But I didn't know what to do. And I don't know, maybe that's why Nefedov lost on time. Because it's tempting to push the A pawn. You know, now we're committed to D pawn. There's the possibility of going down with the rooks to try to check so he can get behind White's passed pawn. So it's like, which do you do? And the computer has an even weirder move. It plays rook F2. But if we get rid of that rook, our D pawn is now, you know, taking off. Rook F2 is a hard move to find. Because you're like, okay, rook F2, H6, H5, D3, H6, D2, H1, H7, queen. The hell is going on here? Now all of a sudden it looks like white is better. The black king is just out in the middle of the board and both sides queen. So I don't think that black can risk that. You know, I would play... I mean, it's tempting to play D3, but we're stuck. Like, we can't move that rook in front. So I don't know. I can't blame him for losing on time. The nice thing about rook F2, though, if he can force a trade of rooks, he simplifies. Rook F2, H5. Maybe not D3. So we take here. And now what's going on? All lines are drawn. H6, we have check. D3, king G3. We have time to get behind the pawn. Even D2 is a draw. D2, H7, unbelievable. Rook H4 is a draw. King takes H4. Queen. Come on. King G5. That's a draw. Anyway, okay. Interesting game. I don't like Nefedov's bishop C5. You know, I think that was a major error, but it was a very interesting battle. Okay, Mad NPC versus Ronaldo. Guys, please subscribe and donate and support the stream. I know there's tariff wars. But donating to my stream is the same as like investing in gold. It's a very safe haven for your investments. Please subscribe. We haven't had a gift sub in like months. So you'll be elevated to the highest level of NPC if you donate or gift a sub here. How are we doing on time? Okay, tomorrow, Friday, midday Blitz stream or whatever. And then Sunday Simul, our flagship stream. Thanks, Nefedov. That was a fun game. I'm sorry you lost. Interesting game. Now we know how you're 1800. You shouldn't be. All right. He lost on time. By the way, Sun Prism, Nefedov. What's the standard, like, time increment in a British or English Chess Federation tournament? Is it like FIDE, where you have 30-second increments? Or is it like the US or something where there's some stupid, like, time delay or some bullshit? Only road to my house has been closed off. Downside of living on the side of a volcano. Alright. So E4, C5. We are Mad NPC. And now C3. Yeah, always annoying when people play that delayed Alapin against your knight C6. 10 seconds. Yeah, see, that's really annoying. I mean, the worldwide standard for classical chess is now FIDE's 30 seconds. You have to physically move the piece. 5 or 10 seconds, it just seems stupid. Everybody should be entitled to 30 seconds a move for the rest of the game. Okay, now I understand how you could lose on time. The only way to lose on time with 30 seconds is you have a really lost position, or you like freeze like a deer in the headlights. But with 10 seconds, it's extremely possible. But I don't like that. I don't understand why the increment needs to be 10 seconds. Too much emphasis on making chess faster and faster. 90 minutes for the game plus 30 seconds should be like the minimum. None of this 60 minutes for the whole game or, 10-second increment. At least 90 minutes and at least 30 seconds per move for real chess. If it's a league, if it's tournament, a serious tournament. So now E5. Wow. That's got to be bad, right? How about how bad? Suboptimal. It's been played by Carlsen. Blobix used to recommend this, remember? He passed away. He was one of the viewers of my stream. Really nice guy who was he was a master of of composition chess from France. But Blobix is one of those people who suggested playing, what was it? No, I guess that was in the Smith-Morra. Okay, so he was playing E5 in the Morra, takes here and E5. But it's a relative, basically. It's kind of a relative, an underrated variation for black. I think E5 here has a little bit of that as well. Well, it's basically like a Ponziani where black played an illegal move, C5. That's funny. Imagine you're playing the Ponziani, like E4, E5, knight of 3, knight C6, C3. Your opponent suddenly plays C5 illegally. And it's your turn. Now, do you call the tournament director? Serious question. Do you call the tournament director or do you let him get away with it? Questions, comments, answers? Anybody? Do you take this good? Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. How bad is it? Do you call the tournament director on him or not? I don't know whether to call him out for the illegal move. Maybe I don't mind him playing an illegal move. If it's a bad illegal move, maybe we let him play it. Unclear. No, it's not that bad. E5 is not that bad. So you have two options. Option A and option B. The Ruy Lopez option is not, or the Rossolimo option here. Transposing to Rossolimo is not testing. Clearly you have to either play bishop c4 or d4. The Evans Gambit is not an option. Bishop e5 is not an option. The Halloween Gambit is not an option, dude. Come on, seriously. Knight takes e5 is not an option. Bishop c4 or d4. Serious options only. The problem with d4, we're going to get into one of Blobix's lines. Something like CD, maybe like bishop e4 check. Things like this are possible. By the way, if you did play d4 and black takes, I'm not sure I want to take back. Maybe we should play bishop c4 now. Yeah, but those moves, Eton, are too quiet. Of course you can play those moves, but they're not the best. You play this. You play this. Yeah, of course. If you really like that, that's fine. But it's too quiet to exploit black's mistake. It's like, dude, I have people who play the black side of the white side of the Philidor. Their opponents will play... well, actually, the Gioco Piano would be a better example. So we're playing the Gioco Piano, and people go h6. And so if I ask my student, like, what's the best way to play against h6 in the Italian game, if they answer like d3 or something, I'll be like, smack, smack, smack. You know, wrong answer. If black is gonna play, if black's gonna play h6, you have to act quickly and strike. If you don't punish this move. If you play d3, you're like transposing to a Hungarian defense or something. You're not punishing h6. So, all right. Bishop c4. And now apparently there are people who have played queen c7. I vaguely recall. I thought no, that's a Rosslimo thing. Some Rosslimo thing with like Kramnik. Queen c7, you can see there's an idea with that. You can come back here to defend f7. In lines with like knight to g5, probably. Queen c7 looks weird. Knight f6 seems more to the point. You could also play bishop e7. But I do think that white is better. Okay, so knight f6. And now, the million-dollar question. Guess what? Mana PC, self-proclaimed Spanish opening player. But this is a fried liver. So, what's up with the fried liver with c5? What's up with the fried liver with c5 and c3? Is that better fried liver or worse fried liver? You know? I think it's probably better. But I'm not 100% sure. So knight g5. d5, only move. I mean, I'm not thinking the Traxler variation is working too well here with bishop c5. No Traxler, right? Someone on Sound's favorite. d5 is the only move. Now we take. And now black plays knight a5. If he doesn't want to go into the craziness, right? But, chopped then fried. But it's better to chop them first and then fry it than the reverse. No, seriously, if knight d5, I mean, I'm playing knight f7, there's a problem. I looked at this once. I don't remember what it is. King takes, queen f3 check, king e6. So these moves have been included. Spartak versus Munoz Pantoja. And I'm trying to remember why that matters. Why does the inclusion of c3 and c5 matter so much? d4, cd4, I'm not liking white's score here. This has got to be correspondence. These are correspondence games. a4. He Spartak castled, and after that, Munoz is slightly better. But how do you know to play a4? I mean, you got to be a correspondence player. No, this variation seems better for black than the normal fried liver. But there's a stronger move. It's possible to play d4. That's also possible in the normal fried liver. But check this out. Queen h5. Leniart Fier. There's 2 or 3 like over the board games. g6, queen f3. And now queen takes g5. This is apparently forced. Queen takes d5, bishop takes d5, knight d8. And the beat goes on. Black has done okay here. Black can hold. But I do think that knight g5 is promising. Now, having said that, you're not obligated to play knight g5. D4 is interesting. I'm surprised there's only 2 games with D4. But what I'm wondering is like knight takes E4 a problem? No. So CD4, very tricky. You can even castle, play like Mega Gambit style. If knight takes E4, wow. Total chaos. Okay, but you're not a Djokovic piano player. But you didn't punish him very severely here. Bishop E7, Rook E1, castles, and now Vital Levente has a game for 2001. This was played here, probably in Budapest. Though it could have been an Olympiad game. I think Levente wasn't strong enough to be in the Romanian Olympic team in 2001. So it must have been an early first Saturday game before I moved here. And I don't know if Levente would play D4. D3 transposes to another line. So Levente did play D4? No. He played D3 as well. It's possible to play both. So D4, and there's only one game where this has happened. So what happens if we take? You have to take back, and then black. Which way does black take? If you take, you have E5, no? This looks pretty good. Apparently not a big deal, but it is the best move. Moshe Gal, he's an old Israeli player. He looks like a fire hydrant. This old, like, bald guy. Let's see. E takes D4, knight takes D4. That's one game. Sveshnikov, wow. Before he passed away. That was probably played in the World Senior, actually. Come to think of it, 2017. Pre-pandemic. This was before I was eligible for the World Senior. Alright, anyway. Black should take. But plays... no, it does take. Okay. And then take again. What I was wondering, though, is, like, can black take with a knight? Knight. Knight takes E5. Better for white. So he has to take with the pawn. And then you have this interesting novelty, E5. E5, knight E8. Knight takes D4, and now D5. Looks like black could just get close to equalizing. Bishop B3. White is still a tiny bit better. The knight on E8 is not great. If it stays there, you know, he needs to get it off, but it looks like white is a tiny, tiny bit better here. Okay, so this is passive. D6 is passive. Now you need to play, what, H3? To stop bishop G4. So what's the problem? Nenad Ristic versus Damljanovic. But serious question. You don't have knight takes E4. Knight E4, rook E4, D5. Knight E4, D5. Knight A5. And I'm still confused. That knight's trapped city. Alright. That's a problem. So if you play knight A5, I just pull the bishop back. Now I'm going to trap your knight with B4. Let's say F5. Is this still unclear? Because of B4, Queen B6? Attacking F2? Shit. Yeah, this is a crazy line. It's a crazy line. It's possible to play knight takes E4. The Damljanovic probably couldn't figure it out. I mean, it's very complicated. So you went d5 right away. That's fine. You know, d5 is fine. You close the structure, though. It's not everybody's preference. This is like Steinitzian back rank. Bishop d3. I mean, I think that normally black's playing like 98, g6, knight g7, f5, knight bd7. You know, I would think this. The problem is that f5 isn't really that great. The white squares are so weak. But you also have bishop g4. So you could do this like closed plan of bishop g4, h3, takes, and bishop g5. Black can, I mean, you know. I know you're white, but that's something to think about. So he plays this, which is awkward. You know, I don't think that this is going to work. So the other plan is like g6, just for example, I don't know, bishop f1, knight e8, and the idea of like, you know, bishop h6, knight g7, standard type of stuff here. Eventually black will play for f5. You take on f5 because Feingold is right about that at least. And then they take back with the pawn, controlling the e4 square, and blockade with like f4. Gotta watch your king. Something like this is like a King's Indian, Old Indian. Although, you know, here again, could be problematic. All right, let's see. So what did you do? You played knight c3, knight on b7, knight d2. Knight d2 is a reasonable maneuver. This bishop is best coming back to f1, a6, a4, and then a very strange move, b6. Rip if you get control of b6. And if you get a knight in there, you know, it's pretty much over. Feingold's only right about f5, taking on f5. Bishop f1, and then bishop b7. I mean, this is a critical weakness in black's position. He's basically playing the Najdorf, where you like put a knight on d5 and he took and you took back, and his bishop on b7 looks stupid. The c file's bad. b6 is weak. He's not getting much counterplay. It looks very good for white. The question is how to do it exactly. I really wanted to play knight a2, knight b4, knight c6. I don't know if you can pull it off, but it's worth considering. This looks a little too fantastic, honestly, but there's another way you could do it, which is kind of cool. You can play the very useful rook lift, which is a standard operating idea in, well, not only the Ruy Lopez, but obviously King's Indians. But just hypothetically, let's say black does whatever, you play knight a2. So now, you know, this kind of helps out. Your e4 is protected. I'm just not sure what exactly black's doing. Let's say he plays rook c8, and then you go here, and then a6 is weak. Now he has to go back to b8. But let's go back to the original position where you play knight c4 and see what the computer says. Rook a2 was suggested. Rook a3 is top 2. Top 3 moves. Who suggested that? Donations? Anybody? Donations for rook a3? But I also suggested knight a2. So how does he meet knight a2? Knight e8. And there's bishop g5. And if you play knight b4, well, white is better. Knight c5. And again, my move is a suggestion. I like how it wants to play knight a2 here. But the real question is this. What happens if we stick our knight on c6? You know, you really kind of need time to go here, here, and here. But it could be just a reasonable pawn sacrifice too. Anyways, there's a lot of possibilities. Knight c4 is fine. Rook c8. Yeah, unfortunately you can't put the queen on b3, can you? Maybe you can, actually. But I don't know if we want to do that. You could play b4 too. b4 looks pretty good. Your knight's protected, the b5's protected, and then you can play queen b3. So that's good as well. But black's setup is very artificial. This is too hesitant. Rook e8. f3 I don't like because it gives him knight h5. I don't think you have to play f3. Like the computer was talking about a minute ago. Okay, I guess you didn't want to do this because of b5, undermining your guy. So that's a little awkward. You could just play like bishop d2. b3 is hesitant. f3 gives up this. And now I expect knight h5 with ideas of bishop g5. But he plays instead knight f8, bishop e3, and he's just hanging b6. So while it's time to admit you made a mistake, you have to go back. He could have gone back with his knight. He can't sacrifice the b6 pawn. So that's just not acceptable. Yeah. Maybe instead of a5, this is more fluid. Because you're threatening knight b6 now. You know, I'm not sure. The problem is if you play a5, your pawns become a little bit more strung out. I mean, obviously, eventually you can play b4, b5, but I think this is better. You have another threat. Keep the pawns fluid. You can push b4, b5. This is fine. Just please don't let this diagonal open up. You know, you're asking for it. You're really asking for him to sacrifice on this pawn chain. Doesn't look like he quite had it. Ultimately you have like your queen guarding d5. Okay. There is this, right? So let's say knight takes, bishop takes, and you go bishop g2. I mean, it is a bit weird. Like knight, let's say bishop takes, rook takes, queen b7, threatening f5, queen f3, but he still has d5. So you've got to be careful. This position got a little out of control. But I don't know what the time control was. 3 minutes? Yeah. Wait. 180 plus 0? What's the time control? 180 seconds? I mean, that's the goal of black in the Spanish and a lot of times closed Spanish is. Try to find a way to break that structure. There it is. There it is. Slicey dicey diagonal. Rook takes e4, bishop takes d5. Ah, I thought bishop takes d5. So what's the point? After bishop takes d5, bishop g2, does he have anything? Or is he just down a piece? Looks like he's just down a piece. It's too late. Oh, interesting. He sacked his queen. Not enough. Okay. Yeah. And trade the rooks. You didn't trade the rooks here? Come on. You gotta trade the rooks. Alright, that's over. Next game, Redusa, and then Itan. Guys, don't be hesitant about donating and subscribing. Alright? Don't be afraid. It's alright, I won't bite. We need more subscribers. So, this is Redusa playing white against Chance. Bon Chance. I know it's a clown fest, but the opening was interesting. So knight c3. The one move that's scary here is d takes c, but it seems like very few people play that. The other move that's interesting is the winnower counter gambit with e5. The thing about this is that the knight on c3 tends to get attacked by the advancing b pawn. So these variations are very sharp. That's why knight c3 isn't too common of a move order. And then after e6 you played a very unusual move, c takes d. So this is considered to be like equal. The score in the opening score is even better for black. So rather than that, I mean, obviously knight f3 is the main line. Otherwise, you have to play e3. Oh, and there's of course the Marshall Gambit with e4, which is actually pretty good for white. There was a game at the World Senior where Krasenkov lost with black. So I don't know where the theory is here, but I mean, maybe e4 is good. Those are your options. e4, if they let you, you should play this. That's very sharp, though. You have to know a ton of theory in this line. This is lame. I played it many times. E takes d, and then it's basically a Caro-Kann exchange variation in reverse. So, usually I would play queen c2. And what if g6, e4? That's one line. Bishop f4. And then this again is a Caro-Kann exchange variation in reverse. The most common move seems to be bishop d6. A lot of draws. There are other possibilities like black going queen b6. That concerns me. How do we defend? We have to play a very awkward move now. Queen e2. Queen b6 looks pretty good, actually. Otherwise, yeah, the move played in the game. Bishop f5. Now we could transpose back into like a normal variation of the Queen's Gambit exchange. e3. So queen b6 is best. Again, queen d2. But he plays what instead? Oh, he didn't do this, no. No, after bishop 5, you play knight f3. Okay. So knight f3 is inaccurate. Now he plays queen b6, and he's fine. And then you're supposed to play queen d2. But I mean, you know, this queen doesn't do anything on d2. It's not well placed. So this is not a very dynamic opening line for white. When I was white in most of the time in these lines, I wouldn't play bishop f4. Again, as I said, I'd like to play this, which is also equal, but not worse. And of course, knight f3. And most typically, like bishop d6, and now bishop g5. And again, it's a Caro-Kann exchange variation in reverse. Bishop f4, Bishop f5, knight f3. Queen b6. This looks like a good move. And queen b3 isn't forced. I mean, again, if you play this in mind, if you keep in mind this is a Caro-Kann with reverse colors, the normal methodology here for black is queen d2 or queen c1. You also have to imagine like knight a4 as a move, like Fischer-Petrosian with colors reversed. So this has to be a possibility. If check, we come back, or bishop d2, which is a favorable exchange for white. So you have all these possibilities. Instead, you play queen b3, and this is a rare move in the normal Queen's Gambit exchange variation. Maybe it's okay. I don't know. The score looks bad, but the score is probably bad because no one good plays this with white. This is also a London in reverse, isn't it? At the end of the day. Caro-Kann exchange, London, it's the same thing. They transpose. So, queen takes b3, usually a bad idea. Black would rather you exchange there. So, I imagine knight a6. Grandmaster Bartel played this from Poland. This is not a no-brainer. Queen takes b3, a takes b3. You have a bad structure, but you have the a file. So this is fine. Nefedov approved. And after bishop c2, you're bringing back memories of my Nefedov games. But what do? We don't have knight a4. We don't have rook a3. What you could do, which is interesting, is go knight e5. That's probably not going to work. Yeah, this is similar to the other week I had against Nefedov. Queen c2 Slav, knight d2 to guard the pawn. Black seems to be fine. Remember, Nefedov played knight e4. Very similar position. And then, again, very similar. There's knight h5 themes. h3, stopping that. Nefedov's favorite, h6. And look what's coming, Nefedov. If you're still here. But white needs to consider this move at some point. Because we could place the king on f2. And eventually play for e4. Possibly. So I don't understand really g4. I mean, I imagine in some situations g4 is a standard move. Here, I don't really get it. You know, what does it do? Your bishop is covering these squares here. I think, you know, you should just play f3. How much pressure can black mount here? It's not that easy for him to attack e3. You try to play c5, whatever. You know, you're sitting. You're not going to, like, take on c5. So what's the computer say? It's playing some weird moves like knight a2. Very ugly. This is a funny maneuver, though. To bring the knight back to c1 to go to d3. I don't think I've ever done that. Very Rapport-like. Yeah, I mean, f3 is normal. If bishop b4, you can put the king on f2 at some point. I don't think you need to play g4. I mean, that's my opinion. g5 for black makes a little more sense. Also not obligatory. At least he's attacking something. And I don't know if you should go to h2. I mean, ultimately, now I see that you get the feeling that Radusa played g4 so he could put the bishop on g3. That's interesting. I hadn't thought of that. But it's also like a kind of double-edged thing to do, because you're giving black h5, you're making that bishop more vulnerable in a way. So this is his plan, apparently, to put the bishop on a more active square than h2. g4, g5, bishop g3, h5. You know, so now, yeah, there's a problem. We can't play f3. We didn't want to do this. Our structure gets devalued with g takes h5. No, it's not a major problem, though. True. Now you went back to h2. And then this is... the trifecta of the wall. It's a 3-layer wall you've got to get through to make that bishop work. It's not enough to play e4. You have to play e4 and d5. Otherwise, you're hitting on the cement wall. I think it might be like a little too much to ask for white. So I don't know. I think we still have to consider kind of like conventional development. But I guess there's going to be a problem with this pawn now. Yeah. Maybe you've committed yourself to having to defend that pawn. That queenside castles is kind of crazy. Now black's king in an endgame may face existential threat. Here. No, e4 is still very tempting. But what about your king? You need to get your king out of the center and then play rook fc1. I think black is in deep trouble with a very simple continuation. He can't contest the diagonal. Maybe like rook h6 with the idea of bishop d6. Rook c1. Bishop d3. And now knight takes d5. So what you did here is crazy, and this is another blitz game for sure. h4, come on. What are you doing over there? It's over here. This is a terrible move. Apparently he had even better. But I would totally just castle. Black is no counterplay. Okay, knight f6 maybe here. Bishop f5. You're still landing the first shot here with knight takes d5. b4, knight c4 ideas. White is definitely better. So h4, very strange move. Takes, bishop h3. This was your idea. Okay. Black can play f5. This is normal. Rook c1, bishop f5, bishop f5, knight f5, knight takes d5. Somehow not as scary as it was. 5 pawns each. Now black has this outside pawn. Without the bishop pair, there's no mates. This is nowhere near as frightening for black now. Black seems to be okay. And I have no idea. I mean, you have a very good pawn chain with the 3. And black has these isolanis. But the h-pawn is strong, and if you don't win it, you're probably worse or not better. You have to win the h-pawn, and then you have a chance to win the game. Here I would expect king up, but I guess he has h3. Oof. Very strong h-pawn. Yeah, this is a disaster. Now you're only like hoping for a draw. Knight takes d4 now. Knight takes d4, knight takes d4, h2 takes, rook takes, rook c2. Maybe it's a draw. So black managed to lose. This bishop is pretty bad. You got to trade it off. Remember what I said. If the H pawn falls, you can try to win. But even so, this is a draw. And just a bullet endgame. You're probably worse with this active king. This still should be a draw. Wait, one on time somehow. Alright, so finally, Witty Brother versus Etan. These fast games aren't really ideal for analyzing, guys. Longer the better. So Etan is black. This is our last game for today. We'll be back tomorrow. Please subscribe or gift some subs. We have no gift subs for a long time. I'm getting scared. I'm getting scared. No gift subs. We're out of business. Hey, did I not activate my stream today? Oh shit. Guys, no wonder we had no viewers. I didn't activate the stream. Oh my god. Oh no. Nobody told me. I'm so not used to doing this, you know. We never activated the stream on Lichess. Acerbate, that's your job, man. We already don't have enough viewers. Oh, I can't believe it. All that stream for nothing. No, I'm just kidding. Alright, so now we activated, but we only have one game left. So we're taking a look at Etan versus Witty Brother. We're black. It seemed activated. No, I didn't see my own name. Chessy, bro. I looked at the Lichess. I wasn't up there on the streamer list. You seemed wrong. I know you're a doctor, but it doesn't mean that you're right about everything. Alright, E4, C5, D4, oh god. C takes D4, C3. Your noti came on, that's different. But I mean, you know, Twitch notification, right? C3, knight f6, E5, no. Yeah, C3, knight f6, okay, you should take the pawn. E10. This gambit should be accepted, but fine. You transpose to C3 Sicilian. It keeps your repertoire simpler. Oh, he's playing a 2600. Wow. E5, knight D5. Now, the other day I was looking at a game my student had. I think we played knight f3. Knight f3 is the most common move. Usually that's main line. So they played c takes d here. And yeah, this is interesting. Look at the statistics. No relation to Witty Alien. So maybe, I don't know. But that guy was like playing all kinds of garbage. Yeah, maybe. I think he tried to play his crap on my stream and I just like dissed him and blocked him or something. He was doing stupid gambit against me in the Caro-Kann. I was offended. Don't bring that stuff to my stream. Okay, so c takes c4. This is more accurate. You don't need to commit to knight c6. You fall in line for a turn. Alright, I'm just saying, like, whatever. d6 is slightly better. We had something weird I looked at yesterday. Yeah, the move order was slightly different. How? How was the move order different? So strange. I don't think move 11's here. There was this game where the guy went check, and my student played bishop d7, and then white went back. Very strange. I had never seen this happen before. But it must be the other move order, right? So we're looking at knight f3, d6. Yeah. So this is some weird line. Bishop b5 check. Okay. Which is very strange. Bishop b5 check, bishop here, bishop c4. This, I think, happened in move 11's game. Very odd. I don't know what what white really gains by giving black bishop d7 for free. But anyways, alright. So, stay with the repertoire fine. C takes d4, knight c6, knight f3. This is another line. Kasparov wrote this book called Revolution in the 70s. And he gives an extensive analysis of this. This is an older line, and it's pretty much analyzed out. It's it should be out of business. So you can just take on c3. Knight takes c3, b takes c3, d6, I guess. I like d6 better than d5. It seems like white has some space here. So there is a move, though. It looks like f4 is played. What you did is okay, too. e6 is okay. And now they take on d5. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't play this move order, but whatever. e6, knight takes d5, e takes d5. There's no games. It's a little like an Alyakhin. Now, you know, it feels like a Petrov or something. This is bizarre. It's like a totally different opening. Yeah, white has nothing. Feels like a Petrov. Yeah, taking on e5 looks good. And so no one's taken back with the pawn. Everyone took knight takes e5 here. Which is obviously not very dangerous either. And now bishop e7. Well, bishop e7 makes more sense than bishop e4 check. Because it guards g5. You put your bishop on e7, the other bishop on e6. But it's hard to come up with a plan beyond that. Very hard to win against the c3 Sicilian. I don't think this is a good exchange of bishops for you. Maybe white can play bishop e2. I guess bishop e2 castles. Rook e8, rook e1. This could be the problem. Castles, castles, rook e8. But then again, maybe white just goes here. But I don't think that, like, I don't know who's playing for a win here. I mean, it looks like it's just a dead draw. And now this is a very strange move. Just some sort of stupid blitz trick or something. You could just take on f3. I don't know why you're not taking on f3 here. This looks like a very good move. White structure is broken and e5 is hanging. I don't see how this isn't good for black. There's a bishop e5 check. Bishop b5 check. Okay, so you did this first. This is maybe more accurate. Knight d2. Wow. But if we don't get something concrete, he's going to castle. So I feel like white is okay now. I don't love this, you know. If you wanted to play for a draw, there was like easier ways to play for a draw, probably. You could be worse here in a practical middle game. I cannot justify not playing bishop takes f3, you know. I get it now. Like after this, he has bishop b5 check. But like this position, even I'm not I'm not even sure this is really that bad for black. But certainly not necessary to take the pawn. I would think you have a good game here. Yeah. I didn't see queen g5. But I'm missing something. So knight takes e5, bishop e5 check, king f8. I wasn't sure about this. But this is good. I definitely think he shouldn't allow this. You know, this isn't viable for white. He should play bishop e2. He has to play bishop e2. And now bishop takes f3, bishop takes f3, knight takes e5, and bishop takes e5. White is a tiny bit better there. So I don't get it. You know, you should definitely, yeah, after check, knight e2, I'm not sure. Actually, don't you have this move as well? You should always be playing for a win. You have knight takes e5. But I think you're playing for a loss after knight b4, queen b1, knight takes e3, queen takes e3, castles. Because if he blockades d4, maybe you're fine. Objectively, you're fine here. But I don't think it's easy, you know, because white has a very clear plan of blockading the dark squares. So I could see a lot of players losing this with black, even though objectively black is fine. The objective evaluation of a position and it's how easily it can be played in a practical game are different things. The computer can say that black is better, you know, but that doesn't mean that he's easy to play. The knight is capable of getting to d4 and being very dominant against that bishop. And the pawn ruler can advance dangerously. Now in the game, what did you do? You grabbed the pawn. And now, you know, you got to watch this dangerous pawn ruler. So white just blundered in exchange. I frankly, I think that white has to play this position very carefully. First of all, queen d4. Secure. Where's Mr. Coffee? Mr. Coffee, are you here? SCP protocol. Secure, contain, protect. SCP. Yeah, White played very, very poorly, underestimating you. F4 check, King H1, Queen takes B2. Now White has to be careful. So he blundered Bishop E2. And after that, he should be lost. Are you kidding me? Your Queen takes A1. Yeah. Okay. So that was it. All right, lucky win there. You actually lost the game. After that, a rook up. You lost a rook up. It was 3+1. All right, guys. Anyway, interesting opening. Yeah, let's see the evaluation after E6. Well, it's a tiny bit better. This is standard. But this knight takes D5. You know, it's funny. Your E6 is okay. No one's ever played knight takes D5 in a practical game. Now we transpose to a few. D6 is fine. This 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 is fine. The computer actually wants to castle. Wow. And I would take here on F3. Not a fan of that pawn structure for White. I think he should definitely play Bishop E2. Alright guys, I'll be back on Friday. Thanks for your support. Sinus, welcome. Hey everybody, don't forget to subscribe and gift subs to your friends and donate. And we'll be back tomorrow. And then, of course, Sunday Simul. Sunday evening. Tomorrow afternoon. And then tomorrow midday, Blitz challenges. And then Sunday Simul, Sunday evening. Thanks everyone. Enjoyed the games. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.